Welcome to Charter California Edition. I'm Brad Pomerance. He is back. He is Kevin Jeffries. He's now a member of the Board of Supervisors in Riverside County. He had been a member of the California State Assembly for 6 years. And I just want to get a sense, how's your new job? I know it's been, 9 months, I would say, but how you feeling?
7 months.
7 months. Be that whatever it is.
Yeah, but who's counting?
Who's counting?
Look, it's a great position. If you want to be involved in local government and make things happen, the Board of Supervisors is a great place to be. And besides, I don't have to fly to Sacramento every Sunday night and fly home every Thursday.
It's very interesting. I've said this before. Sacramento gets a decent amount of coverage in the general news media. City councils will get coverage as well. But in my humble opinion, boards of supervisors really, they drive the agenda in a lot of ways. They really are agents for action because of the way our government is structured, because you're an arm of the state. So much state funding comes through, federal funding comes through. Explain.
Oh, yeah. I mean, the people think that the Board of Supervisors have these massive budgets, and they do in a large sense, but most of it is predetermined by federal or state spending requirements, mandates as we all like to call them. So, out of almost a $5 billion budget for Riverside County Board of Supervisors, we only get to control about $600 million, give or take.
But the flip side of that, though, is that yes, you do have restrictions, but still, I get the sense, and I've always had the sense, that boards of supervisors really matter. They really matter, even sometimes more than city councils or Sacramento.
To a certain degree, yes. Because you impact every city council, every city in the county. And when a resident is not a resident of a city in the unincorporated, you essentially are the city council for the unincorporated areas.
I've just always been surprised by how little coverage boards of supervisors get in the kind of the mainstream media, I'll call it.
It's true.
When you consider how much you really do impact large geographic areas. I want to talk about something that's been important to you since I've known you, and that's sunshine. I don't literally mean sunshine, I mean sunshine as it relates to government. In Sacramento, you've been focused on sunshine. Here in Riverside County, it's an important issue to you as well. What can you tell us about that?
Well, it's opening up the process. In Sacramento, it didn't matter if you were a Republican or a Democrat, independent, same locally. You, as a voter, as a taxpayer, you want to know what your government is doing, and you want to know when they're doing it and how they're doing it. And for me, when I arrived at the Board of Supervisors, we get their agenda, and it's just as busy as a legislative agenda. But it was lacking in a lot of detail, and it took a lot of work and I have a staff of 7, and we meet the Monday before every Tuesday board meeting, and we walk through the packet. We do it actually the weekend leading up to that, but it was very difficult to drill down and find exact details sometimes.
That's surprising because unlike Sacramento, boards of supervisors are governed by what's known as the Brown Act, which has very stringent requirements in terms of sunshine. True?
The legislature exempted itself.
Exactly,
from the Brown Act.
Exactly. So that's why it's surprising. And again, I'm not criticizing you at all, but it's a fact. I mean, you were having difficulty despite the Brown Act.
You're right, and it's not because I felt that staff or anybody was trying to hide anything. It's just they got set in their ways over 20 years, and this is how we did it. Well, we came back and we said, look, we want you to spell everything out, especially the finances. What's the cost this year, the cost next year, and the ongoing cost, and how do you fund it?
And there are actually 3 points, if I may, because I do think, you really set it out very nicely in your Jeffries journal, which I get every month on email, and I read it religiously, so sign up for it if you...
We have about 30,000 who get that.
I was going to say. And so the first element of the reform, which has passed, is that right?
It's been approved to proceed, yes.
I understand. Is that you want the background material no later than the Friday before the Tuesday. How refreshing, given what you had to suffer in Sacramento, where, forget Friday, you're lucky if you got it 5 minutes before, let alone the Friday before. And so that is moving forward. Do expand more on the cost of an agenda item. You hit on it a bit and what you're looking for there.
Well, what we're looking at is we just want to know the short-term and the long-term consequences, financial impact of any proposal. Because sometimes you just see a proposal that says, well, this year it's going to cost $125,000 to do this. Okay, well, what's it going to cost every year thereafter? And how are you going to fund it?
And is it more or less? Because sometimes the first year
and change orders. You get you get multi-million-dollar projects, and you get hammered with these change orders because you have to accept the lowest qualified bid,
Right.
and they always come back with change orders. Well, how many change orders has this, have already occurred, and how much is being spent? So.
The third element is you're looking for a clear statement on the impact to the county resident, and I use the term resident broadly.
Yes.
It could be an individual, it could be a business.
Right.
Explain that.
That's a new one. That hasn't been done before in
okay.
Riverside County, but it has in some of the counties around us. Basically, we stole other ideas and we
Nothing
said,
wrong with that.
well, you look, when you're going to adopt a regulation or a fee, you need to know what the impact is on the private sector when government adopts it. And all we're asking for is basically a paragraph. Explain to us what this regulation is going to cost the private sector to implement, whether it's a homeowner or a business owner. Let us know what the impacts are going to be. And so that's going to be a new one for them to implement in the next couple of months.
And that does seem to be a bit labor intensive. I mean, you really got to drill down.
Well,
it's not a bad thing.
Right,
but
right. Yeah, I mean, look, it shouldn't, a couple things about government. It shouldn't be easy to take your property through eminent domain. It should be a very difficult process. And it shouldn't be easy to implement fees and taxes on you. It should be a challenging process. We want to know, I want to know, the board, by a 5-0 vote, wants to know what the impact is.
So you've been on the board, like we said, under a year. What issues are really percolating in Riverside County? And I ask you that because Riverside County, in a lot of ways, has been a poster child for some of the challenges that have been faced by the state throughout this last economic downturn. Sure. I spoke with Larry Ward recently, who is your assessor, and he was saying that the county's looking up in terms of housing.
Oh, no doubt. Right. We're seeing a turnaround like many counties are in Southern California. But our challenge is really public safety and specifically the prison realignment challenges.
Yeah, I knew you were going there.
That's going to be a really tough nut to crack because it's going to cost hundreds of millions of dollars to build all the prison space.
And Stan Sniff, your sheriff, elected sheriff, he has spoken with us about that countless times. Yeah. Riverside County faces a dual challenge: realignment and then its own court order setting a cap on its jails.
We had a bad situation, made much worse.
Right. Yeah. So I really want to get your sense, because you did spend time in Sacramento. I think it's fair to say, whatever you may think about the governor, I mean, he's been fighting this. You know, he's been fighting the federal court. You know, he did impose realignment, and we can fight about realignment in a moment, but there's no question. And so he is in a very difficult situation. I mean, the ruling of the federal court requiring a downsizing of almost 10,000 prisoners.
Yeah. And we are all of us, all 58 counties in California, we are all in the same boat because state government did not increase its prison bed capacity, at least legally, didn't add more prisons. And because of that, the courts have intervened and said you are going to send your low-level offenders back to your local county jails. Our county jails were already at capacity when they made that ruling.
Riverside County has its own cap imposed.
Yep, already imposed. So now we are seeing low-level offenders go in the front door and another one go out the back door, up to the tune of 7,000 times a year.
At least Riverside does have some expansion going on as it relates to incarceration. Yeah. What can you tell us?
Well, and that's the short-term solutions is the expansion out in the desert,
Indio
facility, and then we're going to look at expansion potentially at the Banning facility. Those are, for lack of a better word, quick fixes. The next one after that is really expensive, which is a new standalone facility. And when you stand up a new prison, you're talking probably
is
40
to 50.
Riverside
County jail or a state prison that you?
No, the county jails.
County jails. No, it's fine. But let's talk about state prisons. I know you're not in Sacramento anymore, but is it time that we start looking at prison construction?
Not only is it time, it's way past due. When I first got elected in 2006, shortly thereafter, the legislature passed a very large bond to go out there and build prisons. It's just somewhere along the line, this was under the Schwarzenegger administration, then to the Brown administration, they decided not to build anymore.
But I wonder if, with what's going on, they'll look at that $4 billion that you referenced.
Not to be partisan about this, but I don't think the makeup of the legislature is going to allow a single new prison bill to be.
Wow. His name is Kevin Jeffries, member of the Board of Supervisors in Riverside County. When we come back, we'll be speaking with Virginia Blumenthal. She is the president of the Riverside Community College District. I'm Brad Pomerance. We'll be right back. Charter California Edition. I'm Brad Pomerance. Our guest, Virginia Blumenthal. She is the president of the Riverside Community College District. And I hate to do this to you, but I want to ask about a sister district, and that is San Francisco City.
Yes.
As we know, they are facing very difficult times.
They are.
The accrediting commission pulled their accreditation, which becomes effective in a year. Could you give us a sense from a distance what you think is happening at San Francisco City?
What's happening in San Francisco City is what really has affected a lot of our community college districts throughout the state of California. When their big problems began when they started losing a lot of money budget-wise. It's called What Do You Cut?
Right.
It's where people don't realize how much the policies of the Board of Trustees can affect the district. In fact,
When you say, you mean the elected Board of Trustees?
That's correct.
Your counterparts?
That's correct.
Interesting.
They discovered that, I believe it was in the last year or 2 years, that 76% of all deficiencies in accreditation were directly related to the Board of Trustees. And which makes it difficult.
Electoral malfeasance. I mean,
to a certain extent.
Right.
Many times our boards are elected that really don't have the business background and so on. Our own district, we lost 40% of our budget. And you have to, we were very fortunate with the financial advisors that we had on where we should cut.
But why is it that San Francisco City, which happens to be the largest district in the state, let alone the country, suffered so dramatically, whereas RCC managed, LACC managed? What went wrong there? I know you're looking at it from outside.
Correct.
Yeah,
Well, I can tell you that the leadership, both from the board, from the administration, from the chancellor and the presidents of our colleges, are extremely talented. And I think that frequently we come back with Riverside and says, we're just that good, and we are. I'm not saying San Francisco is not that good, but I don't believe that some of the financial advice that they were given was followed through. I'm not too sure that they took seriously some of the criticisms that were given.
It's interesting. We have a bureau in San Luis Obispo, and so I have frequently interviewed members of the Board of Trustees from Cuesta College, as well as the president. And as you know, Cuesta College was facing an accreditation crisis simultaneous with San Francisco City, yet they've gone the other direction. I mean, they had been pulled off of show cause. They're now at a very low level of sanction, and it looks like they're on the road to recovery. So it's kind of a tale of two cities. Cuesta managed to pull themselves out. San Francisco City
What you need, whenever you have accreditation issues, you need total cooperation between your faculty, your staff, and your administration. And if those various factions are not getting along, and if you've got some people who are want to create issues and want to be loud sounding in opposition, they will point out major deficiencies that may or may not be there. I don't believe that they are known for their ability to get along with each other.
It's San Francisco. God bless San Francisco, but you know,
I'm not making any comment there.
God bless San Francisco.
But I will say that, for example, in the Riverside Community College District, the CTA, the California Teachers Association, the administration, the board, while we can have our differences, we really do all work to get along for the betterment of the district and with the best interest of the students. I have board members I disagree with frequently, but I can tell you that while I may disagree, they are genuinely concerned and have the best interest of the student at heart, and that is what is crucial. And that's what I have not always seen, because everyone has to work together to get through accreditation issues, and that's a lot of extra work.
Oh, no doubt.
In order to do that. Now, our 3 colleges are facing accreditation review.
Standard
Accreditation review. And I know the amount of work, and we're already doing a lot of work on those issues right now. On things that, to be sure that we've done a self-evaluation that is real and genuine, that the board has done a self-evaluation that is real and genuine. Any board has got certain deficiencies, and what are you doing to correct it?
So what do you take away from San Francisco City, ultimately in the end?
Ultimately, in the end, is you have to learn to work with each other, and you have to be sincere and genuine in your commitment to the district. That has got to come first.
So as we speak, a trustee has been appointed. I believe it's the former president of Santa Rosa Community College District. I don't know much about him. I presume he will do his best. There is a year with which the district can appeal. Should they be hopeful, or really this is the end of the rope?
I'm hoping, above all hope, is that they really get serious and can turn it around. I don't believe anybody wants to pull the plug on them.
Right. I mean, it's the largest district
Yes.
in the state.
And look at the students that it's
Right.
affecting.
85,000 students there.
That's what I keep going back to. Look
Right.
at the students. I don't think the accreditation team really wants to pull it. And I think if they could show how hard they are working and make genuine, sincere, Herculean efforts
Right.
to get to the other side of it, I believe they can save it.
Maybe they'll be on show cause as opposed to.
That's correct.
We know that in 2005, I believe, Compton College, not far from here,
Correct.
lost its accreditation and was taken over by, I believe it was El Camino College.
That's correct.
Is there a neighboring district of which you are familiar in the San Francisco area that would look to do that? I mean, it was easier for El Camino. Compton's a smaller district.
Correct.
It's the largest district in the country.
I
mean, what
don't know that
happens?
another district can take over
Right.
San Francisco district.
So
I
what
really don't.
happens?
I think they have to have a team in there to do it. I don't think you can close community colleges down in this day and age,
Right.
because that's what we need to turn the economy around.
Right.
That's what we need to turn California around. That's where you go back for retraining. That's how we give our education for students to transfer to four-year universities.
Right.
It's all based upon our community
And
colleges.
especially in this day and age where, I mean, you know, when I was growing up and when I was heading to college, the notion of going to a 2-year and then transferring, that was seen as for the kids that couldn't succeed. Now that's not the case. Going to community college is a very viable solution to do your GEs at community college and then matriculate to
Absolutely.
the 4-year. This is
Several
yeah.
things happen here. Whenever the unemployment rate goes up, our enrollment goes up.
Right.
Whenever the economy goes down, parents who could maybe afford it
Right.
otherwise would say, look, you can transfer to a 4-year, but let's save money because you can live at home.
Exactly.
Don't have to
GEs.
pay for dorm fees or anything, and we can afford to get you through. Others who have lost their jobs are going back for retraining and retooling. Now, I'm a community college graduate. And I mean, I graduated from Riverside City College.
And mind you, are also now one of the most respected lawyers in the Inland Empire, if not the state. So clearly,
appreciate that.
no, but clearly, you know, community college graduates go on to greatness.
Absolutely,
Right.
absolutely. I actually believe I got a better education at a community college, and let me
Interesting.
explain why.
Please.
When I took my English 1A class and I took my health science class, I was in a class of 35 to 50 students being taught by the actual professor.
Right.
I was not in an auditorium with 350 to 500 students.
Or 1,000,
being taught,
I mean,
being
right.
taught by the graduate
Right,
assistant.
right.
And so I really believe that the education I got at a community college was better than the one that I got even later on.
I've heard that before. I mean, you're not alone.
I'm a firm believer in the community college system, which is why we can't lose San Francisco.
So the good news is, though, is that with this budget year having ended recently, that more money is going
Yes.
to community colleges, about a 5% bump. It's not a restoration to pre-recession levels, but it is a 5% bump. How are you feeling?
Well, we were anticipating certain cuts that we might have to make again, and we don't have to make those cuts. We are in the process of trying to restore some of the classes, but it's still, when you take a 40% hit,
Right.
5%
right.
does not
Yeah.
get there. And the saddest times are when students can't get classes. When 85% of your budget is salaries,
Right,
where do you cut?
right. It's very challenging.
And we really try very hard to make the classes accessible to the students.
And what's unique about community colleges is you can't increase your fees if you wanted to try to create more classes. That's set.
It's worse. If our fees are increased, we don't get it.
Right,
It
yes.
goes to the state general fund.
right.
We don't see a dime of that.
But you're still bullish on RCC,
betcha.
yeah.
I
mean,
sure am.
Because there's no doubt that this is a district that has weathered difficult times and continues to thrive.
Absolutely, absolutely.
And so, do we continue, we meaning the advocates for community colleges, to push for more funding, or do we need to just continue to be more creative about how we spend our money?
Let me share.
Please.
At the University of Cal UC system, I believe, and I'm speaking very generally here, that each student receives approximately $17,000 per student per year from the state. At the CSUs, each student receives approximately $13,000 per student per year at the state. At the K through 12, each student or the district
Yeah.
receive approximately it's $7,500 to $9,000 per student per year.
Community colleges?
$5,500.
It's a challenge.
It's the best that you will get for your dollar.
I hear you. She's Virginia Blumenthal. I'm Brad Pomerance. We'll be right back on Charter California Edition. Welcome back. It's Charter California Edition. We are joined by Nathan Miller. He is a member of the board at the Riverside Community College District. We thank you for joining us, sir.
It's a pleasure to be here.
I'm sure you're feeling happy that you're not at the San Francisco City College Board of Trustees.
They've run into some trouble up in San Francisco.
Yes, for our viewers, San Francisco City College, which is the largest college district in the state, if not the nation, is essentially lost its accreditation.
Right.
It officially happens in July of 2014, but a trustee has come in. I'd like to get your sense of what went wrong there. I know it's a tricky question, but
the last thing I want to do
Right.
is, be an armchair quarterback.
Of course.
With regard to, what happened up in San Francisco. I can tell you that, one of the biggest problems community colleges face when it comes to the accreditation process tends to center on trustees. Trustees micromanaging, getting too involved in what staff should be doing, not letting staff do their job, politics, ruling the day. That can be a big problem. And my guess is up in San Francisco, I think, there's a lot of politics that goes on up in that town. So that could have a lot to do with it. But, like I said, I'm not there.
No,
I
I
haven't
understand.
seen all the data. I don't know what the report says, so I don't know. But it's unfortunate that that's happened.
So what can a district like RCC learn from a San Francisco City in terms of their challenges?
Well, I think the Riverside Community College District, its trustees, its leadership, its staff, has used the example of San Francisco and Compton, for example.
Yes.
Compton doesn't have accreditation, and it's been absorbed by El Camino Community College. That's the community college I went to.
Right.
When I went to community college. So we looked at those examples, and those were things that we wanted to take preemptive measures to ensure that we didn't have any issues. For example, whenever you have to go through a chancellor transition, that's a big concern, because that's when politics can come into play. Everybody has an interest in who they may want to be a chancellor. We were fortunate enough to have a great leader that was already within the ranks of our community college district. That's Cynthia Azari. She was the current president of Riverside Community College, or the city college there. And on a 5-0 vote, we all supported her to bring her up as the interim chancellor for the community college
And you
district.
have 3 community colleges in your district.
We have 3 accredited community colleges. They're standalone. Each one of them is accredited in its own right, and all 3 of them do a fantastic job, and they excel in different arenas.
And what's interesting is recently RCC changed the way it elects its trustees, and so now you, for example, are elected from an area where Norco Community College is dominant. Is that right?
Well, not every, and that's interesting you say that, because obviously only 3 trustees have a community college that's centered within the district that they're elected from. Norco actually sits within my community college district. I think the Riverside Community College District is in, or Riverside City College is in Virginia, not Virginia's, it's in Mary Figueroa's. And then Sam Davis has Moreno Valley College in his district, but there's 2 trustees that have no colleges. So what does that mean? And am I supposed to only focus on Norco College? The way we've discussed this at length, and the way I view my role is clearly I need to know what's going on at Norco College. That's where I'm elected. I'm a firm believer in local control. I appreciate the fact that at-large at-large elections are moving towards local districts, because you have an opportunity to be more in touch with the folks that actually elect you and get to know what's going on. But I'm a liaison for that college to the community college district, because at the end of the day I make decisions that affect the entire district.
Of course.
But because I have the ability to be more in touch with what's going on at Norco College, I can bring some of those details to the table that I don't think was available before. I think Norco and Moreno Valley College were unfortunately
stepchildren?
They were stepchildren to Riverside City College, because, let's face it, it's been dominant because the history is all centered at Riverside City College, and they've done a fantastic job. So now that we have, several districts and there's a little more focus on those individual colleges, hopefully there's going to be a little more equal representation at each of the accredited
I want to talk to you about funding for community colleges. I think it's fair to say that we have seen a new day come because the state budget is in better shape. And when you look at how much money's been given to community colleges, it is more than last year. I think about a 5% bump over last year. UC and CSU saw the same. Do you feel as if that funding bump is adequate, or do you feel as if it's not what community colleges need?
Well, California, the state of California is lagging significantly behind every other, most of the other states, in the U.S., which says a lot about our leadership and our structure of government here, and issues between Sacramento and local government that continually arise. We have term limits in place where a lot of folks, tend to appreciate that because you have new blood going in, and I see the benefit there. But also, the con is you have a lack of institutional knowledge up in Sacramento. So since the elected officials that are up there are always recycling, as soon as they get in there, they don't really know what's happening, and by the time they figure it out, they have to run for something else or they're out.
Or presumably it will change because we do now have a new term limit regime which allows 12
years gives them a little more knowledge base, but still, most of the decisions that they make are on a short-term basis. What's good for me now? What's the best decision that I can make that's going to affect what's important to me now, not what's good for the future.
But what I want to ask you, though, is, I can't remember if we spoke about this the last time we connected. There's no doubt that the K-12 system, as the economy improves, as the state budget improves, is really getting the lion's share of that upside. K-12 is seeing an all but restoration from pre-recession levels. Community colleges, they're not. UC is not. CSU is not. Does that feel appropriate? I mean, shouldn't all of state education rise at the same rate? Why should K-12 see that quick, immediate benefit and the others not?
California's funding models are irrational. For me, from my previous experience that I've had in the private sector, when you're looking at who you want to give money to, you want to give it money to people that are successful. How do you measure success? Now that's a worthy conversation to have, but they're handing out diplomas to students that aren't college ready. The dial on college readiness hasn't moved, but they're handing out more high school diplomas, and these students are going to apply for college, and they're finding out that they're way below college level readiness in mathematics and English, and that's a bigger letdown for these students than if they were to go to college and just have to go through the regular struggles and growing pains of dealing with higher education.
So is that the feeling that we got to give more money to K-12 because if they're not ready at K-12, it doesn't matter how much we throw at community college and beyond?
Honestly, money doesn't solve problems. It's a leadership issue. It's top down. There are schools that do a great job. There are schools that do a terrible job. So what is it about those schools and those school districts in K through 12 that makes some of those schools work? Why are some of those students successful? There's the superintendent of schools over in San Bernardino, the school district over there, Dale Marsden. That guy is brilliant. He is on the ball. He is a great leader. He invests his time in his faculty and his staff. He cares about the success of his students. And they want to perform well. They want their students to perform well. You've got to build that kind of a team.
Okay. His name is Nathan Miller. He is a member of the Board of Trustees for Riverside Community College District. I'm Brad Pomerance. You're watching Charter, California Edition.